Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to an extra bad edition of... Oh, that doesn't sound good. To an extra horrible... Oh, no, that's even worse. Welcome to an extra bad girls edition of Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical comedy podcast that loves winding Batman up by playing Gigi on repeat. And speaking of dingbat, I'm Aaron, and I'm joined as usual by the man who proves that orange is the new Jack Black. It's Mr. J-Wags. How's it going?
It is going well, Aaron. How are you doing today?
Anyways, guess what?
What?
We have a legendary bad girl diva in the cell block tonight, so make like me singing and throw away the key as we take 39 steps on this mission to redemption that ends in an audience with the Mafia. Well, relatively speaking, but keep an eye on the time, gentlemen, please, as I explore this bright career by putting it together mathematically because I work in a bank next door, so pass the bill over the rainbow because the game's afoot, the drugs game, and I play not by the book, no, not quite it. Yet it is with a streak of pride as this top dog, okay, fine, as this hairy fairy with the mysterious skin joins the maids, doctors, all Bob's women, Rachel, Jekyll and Hyde, Jacqueline S., Cathedral, Emma Dale, Marilyn the Musical, Abigail Sparty, and a streetcar named Desire in driving a huge Aussie g'day from the future TX, along with the pros, the cons, and a screw over to the Isle of Women for one last tango in Croydon with this iconic queen of British stage and screen. And so we ask the empty mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most totally tubular belle of them all? And up pops a picture of this pantomime princess. Aw, not that I was expecting a photo of me or anything. Oh, the agony. I feel like I did at Grandma's funeral. I might have to write that in the diary of me, the one with the lock in the spine, because I spine with my little eye the fairest in all the land who's been a casualty of Chrissy pantomimes such as Aladdin, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and the Mick Jagger story. So we better wait until dark before our hips move like Jagger as we welcome to the torture chamber someone who's criminally gorgeous and guilty of casting a goddess spell over audiences and leaving us imprisoned with the baddest of the bad girls. When I drop the soap opera prison hit where her stint in G3 snowballed into a Mary Many musical version appearances in the West End and beyond. So lock up the good guys and send me the single ones as this singular sensation storms out of solitary because it's the one and only Nicole Faraday. Yay! Welcome to the torture chamber. How are you going? Oh, fuck me.
Oh my goodness me. I'm absolutely dizzy and flummoxed. It took me a few minutes to realise that you were listing every credit I've ever done in my career for the last, nearly 30 years of my career. Some of them I'd even forgotten about, so I really applaud you for fitting them all into that introduction. That was really clever, but also slightly mental.
Yes, slightly mental. I wholeheartedly agree. And I couldn't even tell you which one of those were titles and which ones were just words I put in there to fill in the blanks, really.
It is the part of the show I most want to show just visually. It's just watching the guest as they figure out what is going on for like the 2.5-minute intro.
It's 4 a.m. No way in hell am I letting the world see me at this hour performing like that because I'm like, oh my God, I need coffee. From my new Beauty and the Beast mug because you are a pantomime queen and you've been gigging lately. So are you gearing up for pantomime season?
Not quite yet. We don't start rehearsing until 10 days before the show opens, so that's quite a short rehearsal period, really. Although I have been and met the cast and we've done the photo shoots for the posters and things, because I'm always one of the ones on the poster to kind of lure people in. They always put from Bad Girls and Emmerdale and things. So I played lots of baddies on telly and in film, as you just so rightly quoted, a few of them there. In fact, all of them there. So I always play the baddie in panto, which is the best role to have because you get to sing big belty songs. Often you get to fly, you get to kill people. Yeah, it's just the most fun. I think when I haven't probably played a goodie since I was about 12. Like when I was younger doing local amateur dramatics, I was the princess, and then suddenly I got older and I'm like, right, okay, she's the evil drug smuggling, murdering porn star. So there you go.
Yeah, that sounds like so much more fun.
Yeah, so much more fun. Great fun. No, I like being the baddie. I do. I enjoy it, and it's been great. I think once you play one baddie on telly, if Bad Girls, the television show, was hugely popular. It's been on in like 53 different countries. We've had Bad Girls fan conventions still 20 years on, where we've had people fly in from around the world, which was amazing, meeting fans that are still watching it over in America, Australia, Canada, all over the place. So once you played a really in-your-face kind of evil baddie, it's hard not to be typecast from then on. So I have to say that every other role I've ever played, they've always ended up being slightly dodgy or murdering people or getting sacked for malpractice or torturing people or blackmailing people. But I don't actually mind. I'd much rather be typecast as a baddie because it makes for more juicy storylines.
Exactly.
Coming from a country that doesn't necessarily have a panto culture, is 10 days of rehearsal a standard thing for that? And is it a sort of show where things are a bit looser and things are sort of rolled at the moment?
I'd say it's actually pretty standard to have small, I mean, I suppose maybe some production companies, if they're like really big budget, like there's always a massive one on in central London where you have hugely famous people that are in it. They perhaps might rehearse for a bit longer, but I think actually 10 days to 2 weeks is pretty standard for pantomime over here, but it is a really high standard. You have people that are top of their game in it, and also mostly the people that they cast, and unless they cast, which I hate, dodgy reality television people that are just there to put bums on seats and can't actually do it. But in general, I've been quite fortunate, touch wood. I've worked with people that, although they might be known from the television, they're like me, that they've got a background in musical theatre and they can actually perform. You get amazing dancers that are straight out of dancing school, so you know they're just used to the discipline of having to learn dance routines quickly and putting them on. And yeah, it's great, and it's basically nearly every theatre in the country, around the country at Christmas, does pantomime, and it's something that there's only been the odd year since I graduated from drama school that I haven't done panto because I've been busy doing other things, and I've really missed it. I think it's such a tradition here, and it's so much fun, and it is often that you have a big responsibility, because I think quite often with pantomime it's the first time a lot of people have ever been to the theatre. You get people that would never normally go to the theatre that go there because they recognise someone on the telly, or they take their children because it's the first time the children get to go to the theatre. And it's kind of, yeah, it's like putting fairy stories on the stage, but with fun and with music and with dancing. And it's just, yeah, it's great. I miss the glitter and the sparkle when I'm not in panto.
Oh, no, glitter. No, thank you. I'll cancel out the glitter. I did a production of Alice in Wonderland, which actually posted a photo of me.
Amazing shot of you, by the way, Aaron.
Thank you. As a frog with my grey socks. Why the fuck was I wearing grey socks? I don't know. But it's this green costume and you just see these grey socks underneath it.
Brilliant.
Terrible costume. The play was awful. But look, pantomimes are so huge that even Ian McKellen did one and did Mother Goose. So
yes, indeed.
Sir Ian, if you're listening, I know you're a fan. Come on down, and I hope you heal very quick.
Yes. But no, you are absolutely wrong, Nicole. It is never too early for Christmas.
Now, I do love Christmas. I have to say, when I go abroad and there's a Christmas shop, I do like to go in it whatever time of year it is. So, no, I agree it's never too early for Christmas, but I'm just meaning we haven't actually started in earnest preparation of rehearsals or anything yet.
Yeah. Or never too early for Jonica.
Oh, well, indeed.
We can celebrate Jonica when it is time appropriate, but it's also, I do have to, having a mid to late December birthday, you can never, that's why I have to make it a week. It's because everyone has planned every day of that week. So it's just like, all right, so when you're free, come on, say hi.
So it's like a rolling guest list. So people just come as and when. So do you just plonk yourself in a restaurant or a bar somewhere and go, I'll be here, come by?
I usually post a list of shows I'm doing, and it's like, come to one of these shows, buy me a drink after, and tell me happy birthday.
Nice.
That is what I want. Come and see. Or I just usually send out like a list. It's just like, hey, these are the things I need this year. Anyone help? All right. Like I register for my own wedding every year and I marry myself. So.
Oh, brilliant. It's like those Amazon wish lists I've heard tell of.
Yeah. All right. Just lastly, we're going to move on to the medal now. Home and Away or Neighbours?
Do you know what? Growing up, I used to watch it religiously every single day when I came home from school. But I haven't watched either for years, so I actually wouldn't be able to tell you on current terms. I suppose Neighbours was the classic. Neighbours was the first here, and it was the first kind of Aussie drama, soapy drama I got into. But then was Madge going, Harold, which one was that?
Yeah, that was Neighbours.
I think Neighbours has got more classic moments for me.
Okay, that's all right. You can stay.
And Kylie, obviously.
Yes.
Who is still a national treasure. And she was performing in Hyde Park this week in London. And all my friends that went said it was a phenomenal show. So there you go.
Yep. But anyways, Jonathan, you're up with the Rockstar Rider.
All right. So on your rock star rider, if you were to go like touring the country and you had to give a rider to every venue, what would be on your rock star rider? What weird specific things you, Nicole Faraday, need to have before you perform?
Oh dear, I don't know. Well, this sounds a bit random, but when I was 12, it was my first taste of fame. I won a modelling competition and I got to be interviewed on ITV, which is one of the main channels over here. And I was on the front cover of this magazine, and I went and I got all my pictures taken. I had to do an interview and everything. And I remember them saying, what would you, when you're famous, what do you want? And I said at the time, I want a fridge full of Tropicana orange juice and Cadbury's fruit and nut chocolate. Now, I would say I do still love Tropicana orange juice. I prefer freshly squeezed orange juice now. I do just love freshly squeezed orange juice. And I'd say probably not fruit and nut chocolate now. I'm actually I vary. I love Raffaello's, those little coconut balls, which are made by Ferrero Rocher. But I also really love Galaxy Ripples. I'm quite into Galaxy Ripples at the moment. So chocolate and orange juice, definitely. But alcohol-wise, I think a bottle of port. When I played Eva Cassidy touring the country, I must admit, quite often I would gargle port before I went on stage. And sometimes that port that I gargled might actually find itself being drunk. So I think it's the old actors kind of adage where people say, oh, yes, it's medicinal. It's very good as an actor to have port. But I do actually quite enjoy port. And sometimes if I'm feeling extra naughty, I'll have port mixed with brandy because that is quite alcoholic. But again, it's meant to be really good for clearing your chest and your throat. So I reckon port, freshly squeezed orange juice and chocolate, probably. But I've always enjoyed port. I do like a good port. And it does kind of make you feel better about drinking it if you think, oh, yeah, it's good for my voice.
I never knew that.
Apparently.
Oh, anyways, well, have you had much experience with metal, heavy metal, new metal, glam metal, industrial metal, et al.?
So, to be completely honest, no, I don't think I have or didn't think I have. But then I was discussing, actually, I got a lot of my early musical kind of influence taste from my dad. My dad's always had he's a retired doctor, actually, but he was a frustrated musician. We've got guitars all around the house. He's always played record, still, he'll whack on a record and we'll dance around to it. And he said to me, Led Zeppelin were arguably the first metal band. And I grew up around him listening to people like Jethro Tull, Led Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, Blue Oyster Cult, all of that, which he says actually are kind of metal. I don't know what genre of metal, but they are kind of metal.
Prog rock.
Yeah, kind of. So I love all that kind of stuff. I love Pink Floyd, which again isn't really metal, is it? But that was kind of as a teenager. I used to love listening to Pink Floyd. And then you get into the grungy years when I went out with a guy that lived in Seattle and I told everyone when I was in my second year at drama school, bugger you all, I'm off to America, I'm never coming back, I'm off to beer, and I got there and he was sleeping with someone else. But anyway,
oh no,
that was very tragic. But he was in some grunge band and it was a week or so after Kurt Cobain had sadly killed himself. And so I went out there. So although I was heartbroken at the guy, it was an amazing time to be out there because there were all the candlelit vigil, and I was very into, Hole, Courtney Love, and all that kind of Pearl Jam, grungy kind of stuff, which again isn't really metal, but it's got that kind of vibe to it, I suppose. Then more recently, I suppose, someone introduced me to Nightwish, which is called symphonic something metal.
Hang on, didn't we just do them last episode?
We did
Did you?
Symphonic Night.
Yes, the opera. I've literally just been editing the episode with Nightwish with you and Nelson. Yes, we just did Nightwish.
Okay, I really like them because I think there really is such a crossover with the kind of operatic kind of classical music mixed in with the kind of rocky stuff. Of recent music that I've listened to, I suppose that's the most metally I've got. But again, as I think I said to you before, I like things with a bit of a tune rather than just kind of rah, rah, rah for the sake of it. Yeah. But I do enjoy a bit of a thrashy kind of, big sound, but as long as it's got some kind of melody. And I think Nightwish are a good example of that because it can be quite in-your-face, rocky, metally type stuff, but with a really nice melody, and it's got that kind of classical influence to it.
Yeah, it does.
There is an amazing Metallica album that they recorded with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra called Metallica S&M. If you've never heard it, the arrangements are amazing.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'll have to look that up.
Oh, it's such a good album.
Yeah. I love that.
I'll have to look that up.
Well, this week, one of our regular listeners, Drew, picked the album because I asked him for something that was sort of female-driven metal because I didn't want to give you something that was going to be rah, 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 rah. I thought let's at least, let's not scare you off. And he said to me, this Halestorm, Into the Wildlife. Now, he gave this to me not knowing that we were doing Bad Girls the musical, and there is actually a song on the album called Bad Girls something. So that was like meant to be, but Jonathan's reviewed it.
So we were going with the band Halestorm and their album Into the Wildlife. We've gone through a lot of albums. This was less of, I think, a thrash metal album, not much of it as a hard rock album. This one felt firmly sort of in the new metal camp in the way it was sort of produced. It felt, I was always a fan of, like Nicole was saying, some of the more 70s and 90s rock albums that came for. It felt a little less polished, a little more raw. This one felt like it had a nice sheen over the entire album, which was weird because they were clearly going for a form of gritty realism in the album that I don't think they often got to. I think at the moments on the album I liked the best, and when I think the album was really exploding and the songwriters and the musicians were most working together, were when the country influences were really coming through. There were a lot of country influences on this album, and I think my favorite tracks on it, like Amen, like Gonna Get Mine. There was another one like Apocalyptic. One was like I Like It Heavy. They all have country backbeat, and I think that allows it to get shoulders into it. Like at a metal concert, you don't often feel like a boogie in you, but I feel like there was some boogie in some of these songs, which I indeed liked. Some of the problems I did have with the album were it was not mixed like a metal album. It was mixed with the vocals very forward. So in a way, it was almost orchestrated and produced like a music theater album, which felt a little off-putting because I'm just not used to having the vocal energy so forward in the number. And then there were a lot of, I do teach songwriting. I have a songwriter and I've written a bunch of songs. And I have a list of what I call like lyrics you should avoid because they are done. This lyricist uses all of them repeatedly in every song. Fire higher, like Dead Head, and like a lot of the stuff just comes across like store brand Evanescence when it tries to get too metally. And I'm like, oh, we have this already, and it's sort of a more interesting version of this. Instrumentally, I didn't find it that interesting in terms of some of the other albums we have taught, and I thought a lot of the songs dealt with very similar topics of like breakups, of familial stuff, which is very different than the Nightwish stuff we have often covered in the past, where it goes into like its own sort of weird gothic Tolkien-esque lore, exploring different kingdoms and things like that. This one felt much more about like a songwriter dealing with personal problems and interpersonal relationships, which is cool, but I don't necessarily put relationship songs in metal that much. In general, I think there were a few standouts when they started having fun throwing some boogie in it, but generally I would not listen to this album again. Yeah, I'd give it 2 out of 5.
Interesting. Now, Nicole, did you get a chance to listen?
I did. What I actually did was more of an overview because I didn't know the band at all. So I listened to a few different songs by them. Like I listened to Bites, But So Do I, which they won the Grammy for. And I really enjoyed it for all the reasons you just said you didn't like it. I probably found it more accessible perhaps than other kind of thrash metal or other music of that genre because I am musical theatre trained. My pet hate is when you hear music and the vocal isn't forward enough. It's kind of more about that rah, rah, rah. And I like the fact that you could hear it and it was accessible songs, and although it could be a bit cheesy, I suppose it made it more accessible to me than perhaps regular thrash metal might be. I read one review which said as a band they're like a grown-up Avril Lavigne kind of.
I could hear that.
Yeah, Avril Lavigne just stormed Glastonbury this summer. People were all saying she should have headlined the main stage because everyone just loves singing along to Complicated and all that stuff, like because it kind of takes you back to the 90s and being an angry teenager or whatever. And I think in that respect, I think that's possibly why I actually liked it an awful lot more. When you said, would you like to listen to some thrash metal, I kind of thought, no. But then when I listened to this, I actually really enjoyed it. And there were some songs I liked. I thought the lyrics were quite clever in certain parts. I agree with you about the cheesiness, but like there was one song, Ms. Hyde, which obviously, because we know the tale of Jekyll and Hyde, I thought that was quite a clever twist on the old Jekyll and Hyde theme. And overall, I enjoyed it. And I thought, oh, it's funny, I've never really heard of them before, considering they had won the Grammy, but it was a while ago, I think they won the Grammy.
Well, I also feel like you could have listened to better songs than I listened to because a couple you mentioned are not on the album.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I should have just stuck to the album. But when you sent it to me, because we kept postponing the date, the link had expired. So I had to do my own Googling of the band. So I'm sorry.
No,
I should have just listened to that album. But I think I was just Googling, like, what are good examples of this band's tracks. And so therefore, maybe, as you say, maybe I listened to their best ones off each album rather than all the one album.
I think you may have.
I looked at the singles off the track track. And like literally all the ones I said I liked are the singles. And I think it's the filler tracks that can get a little cheesy and the lyrics get a little, I mean, like you're music theater trained. One of the things that angers me about music theater is when you have a very intelligent, articulate character who has next level thoughts when they talk, but the second they start singing, it's just like good wood, love above, and all the rhymes are just suddenly first grade.
Yeah, silly rhymes. Yeah, silly rhymes. I'm with you on that. Yeah. I tell you what else. Another band that I've always loved, the Bangles. Obviously, this is harder than the Bangles, but this feels like a kind of thrashed up version of the Bangles a bit, and I really love the Bangles. I could hear elements of that kind of, you know, angsty girl, you know, early days of girl bands rather than the silly pop girl bands you have these days. I love the Bangles. I still listen to the Bangles, and I think bits of it reminded me a bit of the Bangles, but a bit more thrashy.
Yeah, still listen to the Bangles. I have notes on this album. I have no clue where they are. And if you can see in this corner, can you see that pile of notes?
Oh, yes, I see the pile of notes.
There's a chance it is in there.
They like jumping in a leaf pile.
Yeah, but the rest of the episode, like my review for the musicals here, the questions are all here. I've got my segues. I had my segues a second ago, but here they are. I am at a loss as to where the hell I've put these notes. That's it. Okay, look, I wrote down a couple of notes here. One of their songs, I can't remember what it was called, was written by a country singer named Ingrid Andress, who America would currently know as the girl who just sang the worst national anthem.
That was not her fault. It was not.
I haven't heard that.
It was terrible. Hasn't America suffered enough this week? Really?
They threw in, like, just from what I heard, I do not know this for a fact, but what it sounded like was that whatever first pitch she sang, they're like, set it. That's her key. And she slowly drifted like a quarter tone to a half step into the next key. And when you're live and a cappella, the audience will just go with you if you drift a little bit. But I think they gridded her into whatever key she started in. And then when she like drifted a little on her top, it kept pulling her note out of tune in the bridge. So I don't say blame Ingrid. I'm like, hey, I think she was trying her best, but I think we all overthought ourselves with the auto tune in this point. Like, if you don't trust the singer to sing it, don't have the singer do it.
What made them pick her? Is she very famous?
Well, she has been the past few years. She's written a lot of songs for a lot of artists, for one thing, but I think she won 2 Grammys or 4 Grammys, or was nominated for 2 or 4.
Nominated for 4 Grammys, and I believe her father works for Major League Baseball.
Oh, that'll be it then.
That explains it. I don't feel that bad then.
Is what I heard.
I see.
But anyways, this band Halestorm, which I keep going to call Halestorm. Is that even a thing? Halestorm?
Yeah, I'm one. Yes.
Maelstrom. Maelstrom is a thing.
Oh,
Maelstrom.
yes.
Maelstrom is like a whirlpool.
That's the Italians that won Eurovision.
Yeah.
No, that was Maneskin.
That's Maneskin.
Oh, God, sorry. See, it's all word association.
We already covered Lordi on this show, and that's my favorite Eurovision.
Oh, yeah.
The Finnish metal band with the mask. I watch that weekly. I love that performance.
Do you watch Eurovision then?
Oh, I love Eurovision.
I've met Americans who've never heard of it, and they were like, oh my God, what are you talking about? No. But that's because they're not cultured like you, obviously.
If you can watch, Stephen Colbert's head writer is a friend of mine, and she wrote a Eurovision sketch for Colbert to sing. She wrote a Eurovision song called Hold Your Breath as Fast as You Can. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, because it's got that perfect English second language lyric that just feels like, okay, this feels like something, and we'll go with it.
Did either of you watch Eurovision this year?
Yes.
Did you see the Irish entrant, Bambi? She was talking about thrash metal. I don't know what era. I mean, she was like dressed up like a witch and screaming. She was brilliant.
I know. She had my vote.
Eurovision, the Irish, don't they usually send like the drippiest ballad ever?
Yeah, they used to. And then they went through a phase of deliberately sending joke acts because they couldn't afford to do it anymore. Because obviously when you win, you're the host country, right? Oh. So they then deliberately sent like a load of people dressed as chickens, not even singing. So for a few years they weren't in it. And then suddenly they came back this year with a vengeance, and Bambi actually did really well. But she was like, people were all saying it was satanic and saying Eurovision was like encouraging people people to worship the devil, and it was all off the back of her doing this crazy kind of devil worshipping type Bambi witch thing.
That should win. That absolutely should win if it's doing stuff like that.
Yes.
And I love the idea of if you win, you have to host. What if that happened with the Olympics and you started seeing countries that's like throwing the Olympics so they wouldn't have to host?
Yeah. No, that's exactly why they did it. I think they even admitted it. Like, come on, we can't win again. We're sick of hosting everyone. We're not big enough, and we haven't got enough money. Right, bugger it. We'll just enter like the worst piece of crap that we can enter, and then suddenly they stop being chosen.
Couldn't you just like say, hey, Andorra, could you take it this time or something like that, and just be like, ship it over the channel just for like a bit, just like where it's Irish, but it's like how in New York all the New York teams play in New Jersey. Maybe it's just we'll take it over, just like do it here.
I think I read somewhere, I think it was Luxembourg or one country anyway. I think it was Luxembourg that pulled out at the last minute because they thought, actually, our song's quite good and we might win and we can't afford to host it. So they just were like, nah, we're not doing it.
I would love to see a country win it, but like just openly be the crappiest host ever. It's like outdoor venue during the day because they can't afford lights, one microphone that they have to share with every member of the band. And it's like, all right, maybe we should switch this up. Just saying.
Well, if his bloody vote for Australia, we can have it out in the bloody outback, couldn't we?
Yeah. Poor old Australia. They didn't get through this year.
Famous European country, Australia.
European colony, actually. Thank you very much.
So are we. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, but yous were a deflection. Yous are like, we're better than the English, so we're going to go start our own country.
Yeah.
It was like when you're in the playground, it's like, well, I don't want to play by your rules. I'm going to go play my own game of Tiggy or Tag. And you go play with your own friends. That's how America started, really. Anyway, sorry.
The whole thing with America is if we have someone to all hate together, we're great, but otherwise we just figure out ways to hate each other. So when we had the British crown, it was super great. And then like within 100 years, we started fighting each other.
And then it took getting Piers Morgan.
Another thing most of America is united against, our hatred of Piers Morgan.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Everyone hates Harry and Meghan too over there, don't they?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't listen to any of that.
Okay.
I don't hate Harry and Meghan. It's just that I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder why people do.
Yeah.
It's like, great. It's like if I had a friend who was like really into Days of Our Lives, and it's just like, can you believe this happened on Days of Our Lives? I'm like, sure, that could happen.
You're like, and? Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, and it's like the royal British family is racist. Oh, really?
Yeah.
What a surprise.
What? These people who have literally lived in a castle for years, like might not have an opportunistic view of the outside world. Maybe they've been shut off and things are a little weird with them. Maybe.
Got to admit, though, the Queen was a badass.
The Queen was pretty cool.
With her little handbag and her going out duck hunting.
I feel bad for Charles because he will never be cooler than his mom. That's just one of those things that gotta be hard.
She was she is missed. She was a brilliant queen. She was a great queen.
Okay, so the queen of this album is Lizzie Hale.
Yes, sorry.
We're going to get this train back on track.
Yes.
Or the royal carriage back on track, let's say. So Lizzie Hale is the lead singer. I think she's got a good voice. She reminds me a little bit of Kelly Clarkson without that strength that Kelly's got, because Kelly's just got this powerhouse vocals. And her brother RJ, which is spelt Arejay. So I guess it's a stage name.
Who knows these days?
I have no idea. But they started in 97, so they've been going for a while.
Okay.
I don't know where my other notes were, but I liked the song Scream. I didn't like the ballads, but then it picked up again. I can't remember what it was called. I'll ADR it in and pretend. Oh, yeah, that one.
I'll give you a few.
Yes.
Yeah. You can just edit it. Great. Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a good song.
Brilliant.
Yeah, because that's after those ballads, it sort of picked up again. So, I can't minimize this to get the Spotify up to be able to see it. But anyways, where's my segues? It looks like Halestorm has blown over, so we're going to storm into an ad break. From the producers of Thrash and Treasure, around the world in 80 plays. Starring the adorable Lizzie B and Alfie Parker, and featuring the star of the show, Dolly the dog, they'll take you for a trip around the UK, exploring the rich arts and cultural history. But here is a sneak peek.
Howdy! Welcome back to Around the World in 80 Plays. I'm Lizzie B and that's Alfie Parker.
And we're joined, as always, by the winner of Pup Idol, Dolly the dog. Woof, woof. This week, Alfie leapt over to Dublin for the 11th stop of the Sister Act UK and Ireland tour, while I can now be found back in London at the Dominion Theatre for Sister Act the Musical's heavenly return to the West End stage, because I have actually started rehearsals now. Who would have thought? Very exciting.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Felt like a lifetime away, and then all of a sudden, here I am. But yeah, all good. If this is your first time joining us, we're exploring the UK and Ireland's wonderful arts history and culture as we make our way from city to city with Sister Act the Musical, or at least that's what our producer tells us to say. So for this week's tour feature, we have decided that we're going to talk a bit about health and performing and being on tour, and kind of how stressful it can be to have to make health such a priority in our job, and kind of talk about our experiences with that. So, Alf, how's your health?
Ankle's still a bit sore, but yeah, touch wood. My health's okay. It is okay. I go through waves of trying to be good and then trying and then forgetting that I need to be good. Do you know what I mean? But being on tour is so... It just adds another element to that, because you can't just pop to your doctor or, oh, I need to go to the dentist. Do you? Because you're in Ireland. Physio is another one where it's just hard. The company are always very good. And Tom, our company manager here on the tour with the office, they, if I said to them, I need to go and see a doctor, he'd make it work. Absolutely. But it's just another element of stress, isn't it? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know anyone. It all just adds to it. And the fact that we don't get a day off. I love the show, but I do think we get Sundays to travel and have a day off, and I think that is too much.
But yeah, it can just be really stressful when you get ill, because obviously health in our job is absolutely paramount. Like, we are in one of the only jobs in the world where even if you've got a slight cold, it might mean you can't go to work because you're ill. I personally struggle quite badly with anxiety towards my health, and get anxious about getting ill, anxious about having to have time off, all of that stuff. And it can be really mentally draining, because you kind of are beating yourself up for being ill, but you can't help being ill, it just happens. But when you love your job so much, it can be really, really stressful.
And we're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's Mr. J-Wags.
Hello.
And we're joined by former inmate of Larkhill Prison, Nicole Faraday.
Hello.
Now, we have a fan question sent in to us this week.
Ooh.
Any advice for tap dancing, especially those who struggle with their arms?
Who sent that?
That was anonymous.
Oh my goodness me. Well, I don't know who you've been speaking to. I can only assume my best friend Diane Pilkington, who's in serious trouble. There was a running joke when we were at drama school about the fact that because I've never been very graceful, and I'm also quite lazy, and I don't like keeping fit. But tap dancing is all about the music and the rhythm. So tap dancing was the only dancing I really enjoyed doing at drama school. So yeah, for some weird reason, my arms tend to float upwards, and so it ended up where I know it's actually very sad. The teacher ended up giving me what was called in those days a ghetto blaster. I don't know what you call it, like a stereo. I had to hold a stereo in my hands.
Boombox.
Yeah, while I was dancing, I had to hold it to keep my arms down by my side. Another class, one of the other dance classes, made me hold a load of books under my arm just to stop my arms doing that when I'm tap dancing. And then there was one particular performance class where I was quite nervous. The teachers were it was like a mock exam. They were like, right, okay, you've come to audition for The Sound of Music. Nicole, what would you bring, for example, to an audition for The Sound of Music? And my mind just went blank, and I went, tap shoes? And they went, so you're auditioning for Maria von Tap, are you? And of course everyone laughed and took the piss ever since, because of course there's no tap dancing in The Sound of Music. So therefore it must be someone like Diane, I'll kill you, or one of my old friends from drama school taking the mickey about the tap dancing and the arms from drama school.
I have my ways, Nicole. I know lots of people in the industry. We give people a good time on this show and they feed us with the information.
I want to see a tap version of like Rodgers and Hammerstein now. Now I just want to see like Tommy Tune come back and see what we can do with the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I think it would work. Tap dancing nuns, why not? You have tap dancing prison officers in Bad Girls the Musical.
Well, that's it. That story of your arms, Nicole, that reminds me of when I was young in drama class doing juggling. But instead of my arms doing what they were supposed to do, my mouth would open up. And everyone would always say, "You're trying to catch the balls, are you? Trying to catch the balls?"
People are very mean.
And so I'd practice at home and like put a cork in my mouth and stuff like, or try to hold something in my mouth. But of course, then my mouth would still be open when I would leave the house and go perform in front of people because I'm so used to having something in my friggin' mouth. So there's all these photos of me with my mouth open juggling.
I'm quite pleased to say that, as we discussed earlier, I'm normally the baddie.
Yep.
And there's very little, for some reason, the roles, well, probably because I can't dance, most of the roles I've played, in fact, I think all the roles I've played, I tend to just sing big, belty, fabulous songs and people dance around me, which is fantastic. So
Yep.
I don't really need ballet shoes or tap shoes for that. I just kind of look fierce and people dance around me, which is just the way I like it.
Give
Yeah.
the queen her boots and a runway, and we will be fine.
It's the park and bark. It's the park and bark. That's what they call it in the drag world. But anyways, we're going to move on now to the musical after that. Okay. Now, I've reviewed it this week because we have chosen Bad Girls Musical. And Nicole, thank you so much for coming on my show. And if you never speak to me again, I'll know why. And I'm so sorry. I have to take this seriously. So there is critique in how I approach this because we know we have people who wrote musicals come on this show and we're sitting there reviewing in front of it. It's like, so Duncan Sheik, you know, he who has a Grammy and Tony Awards, I'm going to review your musical. So I'm sorry in advance.
Okay, I don't know whether to tell you things, mitigating things before or after, but there's lots of things I want to say. So yeah, okay.
Wait till after. And you can tell me to F off all you like. You're allowed to swear on this show. And I'm a big boy. I can take it, but I'm so sorry. I'm scared. I don't like doing this show. Okay.
Stand behind your critiques.
No, I have to. When first choosing, I can't even read now. When first choosing Bad Girls, it was with relatively vague memories of the first season. And admittedly, I pressed play on the Spotify, expecting something dark, brooding, and perhaps even sleazy, whilst maybe driven by guitars. And as I escaped behind the bars of music, I realized my expectations were way off. This has the classic musical comedy sound, running through its convictions, with characters often expressing their inner thoughts as songs. And I have to say, I feel slightly imprisoned by my expectations. Bad Girls, as I remember it, was gritty and raw. None of that is portrayed here through the music, which I feel would have been better served by a month spent in a dark hole to meet the tone of the source material. Which isn't to say the songs are bad. In fact, if anything, the show could use more, less dialogue, and more dramatic sung-through moments that take the show out of musical comedy and lock it up with this cult hit show more. As at the moment, as a CD, it feels like Bad Girls with brilliantly sung standalone songs as opposed to a whole package. Of course, I don't mean it needs to be Les Mis, but closer to Rent or even Next to Normal wouldn't hurt. It would only enhance my listening experience because thus far I have only reviewed the album. And so I seeked out a community production, but
No, you need to watch the original DVD of us in the West
I
End.
couldn't find it.
Well, you can't judge me by an amateur production. Come on.
I'm not. I judge it by the CD. To see if the dots I feel are missing are maybe connected in the full production. And that is indeed where I found all the grit and all the rawness I can remember from the show nearly 20 years ago. And whilst there is those strong dramatic moments giving opportunities for the performers to sink their teeth into their badass roles, I wish that was heard in the music. So how do I score this cult hit musical? With my own expectations in mind? Or as the package as a whole? Or for the potential I see in it, if that dark tone was heard on the cast album? Because for either, I can't get much higher than a 3. I do fear in making a more accessible show as a musical comedy, an opportunity was missed to truly set these beloved characters free from the restraints of accessibility and truly explore their psyches which live outside of Larkhill walls. However, lyrically, that's all there. The disconnect is purely in the tone. I say as I dig my way out of this hole with my foot firmly in bounds, and I'm so sorry. That's what I felt about Witches of Eastwick, that was a musical comedy, but should have been dark. I felt like this should have been darker, and I think the branding of the show would have come through. So I think that's for me, because as I say, they're great songs for a musical comedy. I didn't connect it with Bad Girls, though. That's, yeah.
So it's interesting you say that, only because the people that wrote the musical, whereas often you get adaptations, I should say, of original material that are turned into a musical, it was actually the very same writers and producers of the television show who made the musical.
Yeah.
So they obviously had their reasons for making it like that. As you've rightly said, although I would really like you to watch it properly, watch the whole show. It is a book musical. It is not a sung-through musical, so you're not going to get all the darkness, as you rightly said, within the music. But even the television show, it ran for 8 series. Yes, although season 1 in particular, I think, was very dark. Over the course of the 8 series, you had that juxtaposed with comedy, so that you had you could laugh at some of the characters. Some of the scenes were quite funny. We took Christopher Biggins hostage, for heaven's sake, who's like quite a famous comedy actor over here. There was one episode where he visited the prison and they took him hostage, and they all ended up getting drunk in the greenhouse because they were all drinking hooch and stuff. I mean, there were lots of funny things that happened within the TV show, but obviously with the backdrop of it being quite a serious, kind of gritty environment. The other thing I would say is I feel like you can't have the reason. I think this is what the writers would say. Obviously, I didn't write it. So in a way, you're offending me only because I love the piece, but not because I wrote it. No, not because but I didn't write it, I was just one of the original.
I promise I take it very seriously. And
No, that's fine. But if you think about a prison, so a prison is one of the few environments in the world, I suppose, where you get people from all walks of life thrown together by circumstance. So you get people who would never normally meet in normal life. You get, you've got rich people that are in for fraud or whatever, or could be in for murder. You've got, people who have had a really hard start in life that perhaps have been in foster home, like, Denny, who set fire to her foster home. You've got the 2 Julies who are in and out of prison for prostitution, but that, it's because it's kind of the only way of life they know. And so therefore you have people who, within the TV series, that they're going to clash, because that's where the drama comes, because they're from very different worlds. And I think I would say that the writing of the music for the musical, it's meant to be like that, so that you do have not one through genre, you have lots of different genres to kind of represent the different characters clashing within the show. So they deliberately have like a vaudeville number juxtaposed against a nice ballad, juxtaposed against Shell. My character is obsessed, her character in the TV series was meant to be obsessed with country and western, so I kind of have this big ballsy country and western number, which you wouldn't get any of the other characters singing. So from the point of view of you saying it didn't have a through gritty line, I think that's almost purposeful, because of the fact the characters are all very different and coming from a different way of life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and I do. And so this is why we do this show with the people who make the things or were in it, because they could better explain. We can only sort of judge, as I say, like I judge it as a branding thing each time. Like what is the product selling? Is it a gritty prison drama, or is it a family drama? Is it a seafaring adventure or whatnot? And so I approach that is that coming through in lyrically? Obviously, like most things, it's gonna be there, because that's sort of what people are really paying attention to in terms of following a story. But is it being told in the music? And so that's where the disconnect. So as I say, like my expectations were there, having seen the source material, even though it was long ago, it was very memorable. I remember it. I think I even saw, was it Fenner getting stabbed with an icicle? I think I saw that episode.
Okay, yeah, that would be like series 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah.
I was in series 4 and 5.
But because it was on cable in Australia and I don't have cable in my room, It was very hard to keep up with it. But I never saw it, because I saw all of season 1. I never saw it as a comedy drama. I saw it as a drama with comedic elements.
Well, the musical is meant to be based on seasons 1 to 3, so it's got elements from across 3 seasons. So although season 1 was like with lots of different TV shows, over time things change. So I think you're right in saying season 1 was known for being really, really gritty and very dark, and kind of like every episode shocking. But I think within the musical, because of course, spoiler alert, Rachel Hicks, one of the young inmates, she hangs herself because she's being bullied, and also because she's being abused by one of the prison officers. officers. And so that is the kind of dark crux of the musical, the overall arc. You know, you have to have a beginning, middle, and an end with theatre, whereas obviously with the TV series, it went on and on and on. So that was very tragic. Plus, you've also got the seriousness of the fact that you've got the prison officer and the prisoner falling in love through the bars and the problems that causes. And you've got the main thing, which is the denouement has to be kind of the downfall of the baddie of the piece, Fenner. And his song is really quite dark, I think. It's got kind of clever lyrics, but it's all about how he's basically saying, I'm the king of the walk. I've got the key to all these women's prison cells. I can go in whenever I like and I can do whatever I like. Yeah. And then sure enough, the very next scene after he's sung that song, she's found hanging, having hung herself. And I think that's quite a dark theme to have. But of course it is juxtaposed with the fantasy prison officer sequence where he's imagining if he ran the prison, what he'd like it to be like. And with Shell doing a country and western number before I'd have sex with him and set him on fire. It was a brilliant role to play, I have to say, in the West End every night. Shagging someone while singing a country and western number and setting them on fire. That was the denouement of Bad Girls the Musical. That's what I won my awards for.
The most baller thing I've ever heard, and now I want to see that more than anything I've ever wanted to see anything.
Yeah, but I would also definitely say in Bad Girls the Musical's defense, on top of the things I've said,
please defend it. As I say, you can tell me to fuck off all you like.
No, I wouldn't do that. I just think you don't know it well enough. That's the point. I think it's a book musical. It very much is a book musical. Yeah. If you watch our production, a good production, or, there have been some good amateur productions over the years, but I think if you watch our production, which you can get on film, the songs come out of the scenes and out of the scenario so that you've already built up the characters and you see which characters are comedy characters and what situations might have funny scenes in them before they get really dark. And so from that point of view, it wouldn't, I don't think, feel so much that the music came out, it was all over the place and funny here and not, I think that it would flow better. And that's the difference between watching, my favourite musical of all time is Jesus Christ Superstar. And I listen to that all the time. And that obviously it's sung all the way through. So you've got everything you need by listening to it. But with Bad Girls the Musical, I would never suggest that all you should do is listen to it because of the fact that you're missing all the scenes in between, and because it was written by the same people that wrote the TV scripts. It was very much written as being a drama with songs rather than a sung through musical.
Just to add a few more in, and sung through moments would only benefit it in terms of strengthening it up as a whole package. I'm not suggesting it should be all the way sung through. I don't think that would work, but I think there were some dramatic moments in the acting that I thought could have benefited from a back. Jean Valjean and Javert going at each other is so dramatic. It's camp as tits as well. And that's Bad Girls is, let's face it, it's pretty camp. Every prison drama is pretty camp. I think it would have just benefited from that.
Well, they did do years ago. We had an amazing Paul O'Grady. I don't know if you're aware of him. He was a fantastic humanitarian and performer in the UK. Sadly, he's dead now. But he was very famous for being one of the most, the first kind of...
Lily Savage, blankety blanks.
Yes, so there you go. So Lily Savage, years before Bad Girls the Musical, Paul as Lily starred in Prisoner Cell Block H the musical. But that was very much done as a tongue-in-cheek spoof. Like it was properly funny one-liners from the TV series and, open and close very quickly. But people went to it kind of for the camp comedy value. And I think people were expecting when they came to watch Bad Girls that it would be like that. But actually, people that watched it, in fact, even like the broadsheet newspapers that were ready to kind of slag it off because of it being, yet another television adaptation for the stage that's not going to work. We got like a lot of 4 out of 5s and even some 5 stars from like the big, reviewing newspapers. So I think had you actually seen it as a production all the way through, I think you would see it less as a kind of too much of a comedy pastiche thing, although obviously there are comedic elements within it.
Yeah. It was interesting for me because I came into this with no concept of Bad Girls as a television show. I have not watched any of the CBS reruns on that. I was not able to get a hold of the pro shot of the musical. I looked for it over here. It was really easy to find. Well, yeah, going through it, it's one of these things where it's like I could tell going through just a synopsis and the album, I was not getting anywhere near the whole experience of the show, because it's just felt like normally when you listen to an album for the first time, I always like to pretend if I didn't know the language this was being sung in, would I have any idea what the show was about? And for this one, it felt like the music came in and was the reprieve from the heaviness. And the music came in and was like, and now the music is taking us beyond the walls. And so it's allowing us to soar in a way that the reality of the situation can't, which created sort of a very odd tonal shift for someone who wasn't sure what the show was about. And going through the synopsis, I'm like, this seems very music comedy for a show that has this sort of dark, like the end of Act 1 is chilling. The key song is utterly chilling, like how lightly that song is tossed off if you don't know the context of that song. Like that song is utterly terrifying. The Rapist got some brilliant songs.
Yeah. At the end of that is when we find her hanging dead. So therefore, obviously, it does build to a dramatic moment that you don't get from the CD.
And it's just, and as much as I was going into that, but like there's so many like musical variety numbers leading up to these moments. And it just makes you wonder, it's like, oh, well, what's the tone of this show? And like, I would love to see the pro shot being able to go in and out. But yeah, like there were some moments where I just wish there was some more, the phrase like musical colors, because there were different genres of songs, but it felt like they were all orchestrated in sort of a 70s orchestration sort of way. When they were trying to push beyond it, like Baddest and the Best, like there was a little bit of guitar, but it was buried so far in the mix. I was just hearing like hi-hat and piano, and I'm like, let's go. Let's be bad. Turn that guitar up just a little bit. And like, thank you for explaining why First Lady was a country song, because I didn't understand why a seduction number was like a steel pedal guitar song.
Yeah. Yeah. In the TV show, she walked around singing Tammy Wynette and stuff, and was like wearing a cowboy hat whenever she could and stuff. It was just her thing.
Just because I was wondering, like, I was like, that is a fascinating choice for a seduction number. And then figuring out, I was like, and then she sets them on fire. I'm like, what the fuck is this show? And yeah, that was the thing for me, is that listening to the album and reading the synopsis made me want to see the show, which I guess like mission accomplished with that. And it made me want to learn more about the idea of the show and the characters, because the moments of the show that come through, like the moments you can tell how sincere the performances are. I love that it has a bit of rawness to the sound to it. It doesn't feel overproduced. It doesn't feel auto-tuned. It feels like this is what it feels like in the theater sounding like, and it's a beautiful sound. So that was something I very liked. I just wanted a bit more variation in the orchestration. And yeah, I just wished I had a better concept of the show going in. That was like my expectations for the metal album were to be more metal, and it wasn't. So the expectations were off, which is why I think I didn't like the album as much. But for this, I had no expectations going in, so I could just judge sort of the song cycle as a song cycle. And as of that, I thought there was a lot of interesting and good work in there. It's just like I had a hard time putting the synopsis with some of these songs, with some which are very cute and some which are very lighthearted, some which are very funny. And then I'm like reading this like, oh, this gets real dark.
Yeah. I completely agree with the orchestrations. Had there been maybe less piano in one and more guitar, a sleazy guitar in the key song, I think that would have elevated that song from musical comedy to theater. Does that make sense?
Did you like the Freedom Road song? That's a really nice song that we started Act 2 with, which is like a lament where Crystal, the character, she's got a guitar, I think, and it's all lots of really nice harmonies, and it's kind of like
and a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it's just like a memorial song.
Yeah, and a beautiful moment, and it felt like it was part of that branding a little bit more than, say, the other moments. And as I say, like the songs, you don't need to change the notes. You don't need to change the lyrics. I think it's just the orchestrations. Darken them up a bit, and I think you've got that branding right.
Well, I would really like you guys to watch the film of it. Straight after this, I'm going to email the producers and go, where can people get it? Because you used to be able to buy it online, right? Like on Amazon and on Vimeo and stuff, but maybe you can't. Maybe you can't anymore. But I'd really like you to watch it, because I think that would make a big difference if you could see it like all as one kind of piece of drama.
Yeah.
I found a college performance, but I decided not to watch it because I would rather. I'm like, this, I don't feel like this is what we're reviewing.
No, but I was just wanting to see if those dots were connected in terms of the grittiness.
Right.
Were they there that I didn't hear in the song? They were there. So I think darken up those songs. As I say, it's camp, it's enjoyable, it's in a lot of ways relatable, because I think we probably all know somebody who's trouble, full stop.
Humanity and sincerity, and I love that about the piece.
Yes. And also it's just very, very darn British. It is so British.
It is.
Like, it really is.
Well, and also I have to say, from my point of view, it's been, as an actress, fantastic. It's meant that my career with Bad Girls has continued, because as you well know, that within theatre, within both amateur groups and drama schools, you tend to get an awful lot more girls that want to train than boys, and a lot more local ladies that want to be part of amateur groups, etc. And there are very few pieces of theatre which have so many strongly drawn female characters as leads. Like normally you're like it's getting better, but it's quite often very male heavy. And in this, although obviously Jim Fenner is a fantastic role, and you've also got the number one, the rest of the characters are all really strongly drawn women, and therefore it's great because whenever people do Bad Girls the Musical now, they contact me and say, can you come and do a workshop, or can you come and guest direct for us for a day? So it's kind of been great. It's meant that my career with Bad Girls has carried on because they see me as the expert on the show, because I'm the only person that did every single workshop for it, every single professional production, as well as having been in the TV show for 2 years, whereas not many people, there were only 3 of us I think that had done the TV show and the stage show. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's meant that my career with Bad Girls the Musical has carried on, which has been great because lots of people want to do it as a production because they relate to it and because there are great parts for girls in it.
Yeah, I even mentioned that in the review, giving opportunities to the performers to sink their teeth into their badass roles because they are badass.
To jump off of what you were saying about being the person who did it on TV and also did it on stage, and also like the requirements of weekly television is far different than the requirements of a 2-act one-night show. How is it different preparing as an actor? What's the process? So you're performing a different role in a different medium in a similar story to a show you did later seasons of.
I know. So first of all, I was in the TV series playing Snowball Merriman, who pretended to be an American movie star who said she'd been in Die Hard and all sorts when she arrived. So they were all like, oh, wow, she's so glamorous. And then it turns out she's completely lying and she's really an ex-porn star. That she went to America, flopped, and ended up stabbing someone 16 times because he took photos she didn't like in a cocaine-fueled frenzy. And then she got caught coming back from America to England with loads of drugs on her because you can't be extradited from the UK to a country where there's a death penalty if you're wanted for crimes in this country. So I've learned something. So if you're ever done for something in America, you just want to commit crimes on your way back to the UK because then they can't extradite you because then you're in prison in the UK, which is kind of worrying that I know that. But anyway.
Would that work in Canada? That's so much closer to me.
I don't know. So with Snowball, every episode, she had nothing to lose but to cause as much trouble as possible because every day that she was closer to her getting out of jail meant that she was closer to the electric chair, as the prison officers kept telling her. So I just kept trying to escape. I killed various people. I blew the prison up. It was an amazing role to play. But ironically, the character, when I was brought in as the new Shell Dockley, which is the role I played in the musical. So Shell Dockley had been the main kind of blonde, glamorous one in seasons 1 to 3. Then Deborah left because she was doing lots of other fabulous stuff. I then kind of took over as the blonde, glamorous one. She came back in and set my head on fire. So in the musical, I'm actually playing the person who bullied me in the TV show, which is mental. I'm playing my own bully. But when they killed me off, because after all these episodes of doing amazing epic stuff, like having car chases and stunt doubles and all sorts, because I kept escaping, they said, oh, by the way, you hang yourself in episode 10. And I was like, yeah, right. They went, no, really? And I was like, what? You can't kill me. I love this job. So after being quite sad about the fact my job had come to an end like that, which I wasn't expecting, they then called me in within a couple of months of me leaving, saying they wanted to have a chat with me, and we'd go for lunch. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have like a Bobby Ewing from Dallas moment where I'm in a shower and it's all a dream. I'm really alive. But they then said, no, sorry, Snowball is definitely dead. However, we know that your background is musical theatre, and we've come up with this idea for Bad Girls the Musical. It's based on series 1 to 3, so Snowball isn't in it, but Shell is. And people had always drawn the comparisons between us physically and the kind of characters that they were, even though they had different accents and everything else. So they were like, are you up for it? So then I started doing that, but I was just so delighted to still be part of the franchise, I guess, and still be working with the people, and such an amazing production company and very women focused and such great strong female characters that they wrote. And then having done the musical, I actually ended up then doing the musical for far longer than I ever did the TV series, because as I say, by the time you'd done all the workshops and then it transferred, we did it up north at the West Yorkshire Playhouse, then it transferred to the West End the next year, then we went in and did the film, then we did the album, then since then having guest directed all over the place, I kind of feel more Shell in a way than I do Snowball, even though people that watch the TV series, it depends if fans that I meet have watched the TV series or the musical as to whether they think of me as Shell or Snowball, which is quite weird because it's two obviously different characters, and they exist in the same world but at different times. But I actually really I just feel very proud and glad to have been given that opportunity, because not many people get the opportunity to play two different roles within the same world.
Unless you're in a Ryan Murphy show, like American Horror Story.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I guess I trained in musical theatre, but then my big break, when I was 26, I got into telly. Then I did a few years of telly, and then I kind of came back to theatre again. And I've always been quite lucky that I've kind of been able to have a career where I do both. And I quite like the fact that each month I'm like, oh, I'm filming then. Oh, no, I'm singing. I'm performing at Pride this month, or I'm doing a cabaret. I like being able to juggle and wear the different hats of television and theatre. So I suppose I'm just used to it being different genres and yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to throw us to an ad break because we're running over time and I know Jonathan's got to go to work. So, well, bad girls, what you going to do when they come for an ad break? G'day listeners, Aaron here. Normally I would be joined by Spencer, so I guess we'll pretend he's here. Oh, hey Aaron. And it's time for this week's update of the Bloop Network news. There's nothing much going on really. Lizzie and Alfie are still performing in Sister Act, both on tour and on the West End. So if you're in the UK, grab tickets to that. Jonathan's show at Second City NYC is still running every second, I believe, Monday, where they'll have a special guest come on and tell a story, and then the cast have to then improvise a performance based on the story that the extra special guest told. Also, on the Bloop Network, we have And the EGOT Goes To. Now, we're actually currently looking for a panel for the Emmys portion of the series. So if you are a huge television fan, let us know on Twitter at EGOT_podcast or email us at networkbloop@gmail.com. That's networkbloop@gmail.com, and let us know that you're interested in auditioning for the panel for And the EGOT Goes To, which recently had its first ever live episode recording, and that is currently on our Patreon as an exclusive and will be released to the public next week. Also, if you have an idea for a podcast that's been bubbling away in your mind, you can always pitch the idea to us at networkbloop@gmail.com. Put in as much detail as you can, whatever you've got planned out. But if you have a show idea that's about movies or television, politics, sports, life in general, we are looking for unique concepts that you're not going to find anywhere else. So hit us up at networkbloop@gmail.com with your pitch, and who knows, maybe this time next year you'll be sitting here recording one of these ads, just like me. But anyways, back to the episode. Right, we're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's Mr. J-Wags, and we're joined by a genuine fairy tale princess, or an evil queen, Nicole Faraday. What's one thing you fail at that everybody else seems to do perfectly well?
Just actually general normal things that people find really easy, I find really difficult. Like, just I'm really quite clumsy, and I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, if I'm carrying stuff out to the car, I'll be like, I need help opening that door, or oh no, I've just dropped everything on the road, or oh no, I've forgotten this or I've forgotten that. I'm a bit chaotic as a person. Like, when I'm on stage, it's great because I'm like playing a character, yeah. But as a person, I'm quite kind of clumsy and chaotic, and like I'll start doing something and then I'll go, oh, they used to call me Nikki, oh, there's a butterfly Faraday, because it's like, oh, I'm always like, oh no, something sparkly, and like my mind's, I suppose these days probably I'd get diagnosed with ADHD. I don't know. My mind's always on lots of different things, and I find it hard to kind of maintain normality.
Yeah, I feel seen. This is why I don't have my license, because I'll see pretty lights, and then suddenly I've run over someone's grandmother who's walking her puppy who has cancer, and that's on me. No, I won't get my license because I am exactly the same. I feel seen. Anyways, J-Wags.
What is a piece of media, like a book, a movie, a show, that you are not involved with in any way, that you would say that maybe lesser known, that you would want everyone to watch or consume? Like, what's one of your things that's like, oh, everyone needs to experience this, but no one knows about it, other than Aaron's book?
A guy called Robert Popper, who's a comedian, plays a character called Robin Cooper. It's a fictional character. And he's written 2 or 3 books called The Time Waster Letters. And as this fictional character, he writes to genuine companies and then prints within this book as if it's really, hello, I'm Robin Cooper, and I've written these letters, see the replies, and they're the most ridiculous letters, like literally make me cry with laughter, because they're really silly letters that he writes, and you see the real replies that he gets from these different companies, and people genuinely believe he is this fictionalized character that he's created. So I've definitely given that tip to other people, or bought them the book and gone, you've got to read this, it's hilarious. So yeah, Robert Popper, but as Robin Cooper, The Time Waster Diaries, or The Time Waster Letters. There's both.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Oh, Oh, okay. Have I seen a ghost? So me and Diane Pilkington, who you've had on as a guest before, she and I used to live together at Guildford School of Acting, at drama school. We shared a house, and it was a really old, it was a really run-down old house. Like, we didn't even have proper furniture, and there were fag butts all down the back of the sofa, and it was proper Studentsville. But
just to clarify for our American listeners, fag butts, you mean cigarette butts?
oh, sorry.
That's all right. I got
Yes,
it. I knew exactly what you meant, but let's.
I was with you. I haven't.
Okay, that's all right then.
Sorry, yes, cigarette ends.
So, just to clarify.
Sorry.
It's this show. It could mean anything.
As long as you don't start talking about fanny packs, we're
I
fine.
know, right?
Anyway, so we were alone in the house one day, and it was like evening. I can't remember what sort of time, but it was evening anyway, so it was dark. And we were in my bedroom, sitting on the floor, because I think I didn't even have a proper bed. And we both literally at the same time went, what the hell was that? Because we both felt this kind of like whoosh past us, like a breeze, and sort of saw like what looked like, and this sounds made up, but it's honestly not. It's my only ever ghost ever thing. And it made, Di will kill me for saying it. She started smoking that night. She doesn't smoke. She hasn't smoked for years. But that night she was like, that's what made her take up smoking, because we both felt this kind of whoosh, saw this kind of cloud almost go across the room. Then a pile of paperwork that I had in the corner, because of course none of it was filed, because I'm a messy person, went like this, like papers flying around the room. And at exactly the same time, in the hallway, a lampshade that was hanging up. And it couldn't have been a power, because we were students. We were so crap that we hadn't bothered putting a new light bulb in. So it wasn't even lit. It fell and smashed on the floor. And then the basement door, which none of us ever went down to because it was locked and it was just full of broken furniture, was open. And we were the only people in the house. And we were freaked out then. It wasn't long until after that we left the house. And things kept, as well, other things went missing, like someone's deodorant went missing and we found it on top of the kitchen cupboard, or things would just go in different parts of the house they weren't meant to be in. And we were like, at first, are people playing a trick? But that night was definitely not a trick, because we were the only ones in the house. And then not long after we left, we found out that the people that moved in after us had moved out because it was haunted. And then years later, I found out that there was a succession of people that moved into that house. And one by one, people had the same sort of experiences, and people kept moving out going, they had to move out early because it was haunted. So it wasn't just us.
Yeah. She may have just shot herself in the foot by you mentioning that that's when she started smoking.
Oh, was it her that gave me the question?
That was her that gave you that question.
She doesn't smoke anymore. It was a long time ago.
Well, you just dumped her into the world. So that's perfect. But anyways, is there something you're yet to try with a character to test your acting skills that you can't wait to, sort of the type of a character or some sort of notion?
I don't know. Do you know, I feel quite lucky in the fact that I have played lots of different... What I really enjoy doing, actually, is doing biographical roles. I've played a lot of real people. Like, I played Marilyn Monroe several times. I did a play in the West End, as you mentioned earlier, Audience with the Mafia, which was amazing, like playing Marilyn at the Shaftesbury Theatre in the West End. I've played Agneta from ABBA many times, and I still enjoy singing her songs. I toured the world with a band called ABBA Gold years back in the day, and still now doing prides up and down the country. I always do a few ABBA songs because everyone loves ABBA, right?
Yeah.
I've played Diana Dawes in a play, which I really enjoyed, and actually a friend of mine is writing a play as we speak and wants to cast me as Diana Dawes as well, so that would be nice to play her again. So I enjoy being able to research characters and getting my teeth into real people. So if you can find footage of people and like really imitate it, like Eva Cassidy as well is one of my favourite roles I've ever played. I've done three tours as Eva Cassidy, and I really like doing the best I can to sound like people, because I feel like if someone's coming to a show about a person that really existed, when they listen to the songs they kind of want to hear them how that person sang them, because otherwise they wouldn't have come. So I enjoy doing that. So more of that, like having someone real to kind of go and research and copy and imitate and get my teeth into and research why they're like that and how they move and things like that I enjoy.
Who else would you like to play? Who would you like to do a biopic of or a musical of?
I don't know. I don't know. I have to come back to you on that one. I have to have a think. It's just when things come up. I don't know. I'd like to play Eva Cassidy again now, although I am getting on a bit. And sadly, she died when she was 33. So, mind you, in theatre, you can kind of get away with being older, can't you? It's just on telly that it's like, no, she's nearly 50. She's not 30.
Yeah. Distance can be very kind for some.
Yes, exactly. I don't know. But that's certainly something I enjoy doing. I enjoy being able to research something, or it doesn't even have to be a real person, but a real situation that really happened. I like putting the work in to research things because it informs how I play a role.
Is there a historical story you think more people need to know about that you'd like to see dramatized?
Not specifically, but I'm one of these people that really enjoys, which is a terrible thing to say, but stuff about serial killers and true life crime and stuff like that. There's a few kind of female murderesses that I think haven't been explored yet. There's a lady, I can't remember her name, but I was looking up people that specifically I could play and I could research, and there was a murderess that lived down in Dorset back in the day in like Victorian times and killed lots and lots of people. So something like that, I think it would be nice to be able to research a murderer. Actually, I saw a really good musical I'd love to do about Lizzie Borden. Have you seen that musical, Lizzie?
Heard of it, yeah.
About Lizzie Borden, who was a killer. She was American, but she...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So something like that I'd love to do because I'd enjoy the research that went into studying someone like that. So yeah, maybe it makes me a terrible person, but I'm obsessed with serial killers and true life crime.
I did a show that was an examination of the Lizzie Borden case.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
It was sort of like a true crime deconstruction of...
Yeah, I'd have found that really interesting.
I've only got 2 more questions here. I've got one, and then there's one for Jonathan to ask. Funniest stage door experience?
Well, I don't know if it counts. I mean, I've had... I don't know if it's funny. Well, it's weird. It's kind of weird. Okay, so when you do a show, obviously, when you're on TV, then you used to get fan mail. Now it's all fan emails and weird tweets and things like that. But back in the day, when I was on the telly, you get fan mail and it would go via your agent to the TV company, and then you get it. So there's that distance there. So if it's a weird letter, you go, okay, that's all right. I'm never going to meet them, hopefully. But when you're in a show and you're in that place like for a certain amount of time, so people know you are there every day, that's when it's a bit scary. And I was doing one particular pantomime not long after I'd left Bad Girls in a place called Chatham in Kent. I got delivered to stage door this big brown padded envelope with every letter was written in different colour ink, and inside it said, it was a card with like some crass joke on it about sex. It was something about a turkey stuffing or something. I can't remember. There was a page ripped out of a porn magazine with a blonde girl with her legs apart in the middle, like stuck in this card. And extra large pink lacy bra and knickers, which I was really offended by the fact it was extra large. But anyway. Oh no, is it? Anyway. In the card, it said, "Dear Nicole Faraday, I would love to meet an actress such as yourself. I want to have sex with you. I have imagined having sex with you in every possible position. The best way to make this happen would be if you were to come to my house. I only live round the corner from the theatre.
Oh.
You can come to my house between the hours of..." And he then wrote, hours, you can come on Monday between 1 and 4. You can come on Tuesday between 3 and 6, like the different hours.
Oh.
Because obviously he lives with someone like a wife or someone who's not, and he's like, any other time is not convenient for me. I'll wait to hear from you, or perhaps I'll see you at stage door. Anyway, from then on, obviously, I was terrified every time I left the theatre because it was like a murderer, because he'd written every single letter was in different coloured ink, and it had the porn bit, and it had the fact that he actually thought by writing, "I want to have sex with you, so when you come to my house, it can be this time or this time." So I used to take 2 rather lovely beefy dancers out with me every time I went anywhere, and there was some guy there at one point going, "Can you sign my chest?" He had like a big picture of me on his t-shirt and a mug and stuff, and I was thinking, is it him? Could it be him? So I wouldn't say it's a scary stage door story. The fact that he said he lived so close, and the fact that he dropped it off by hand, and the fact that he said, "I'll see you at stage door," meant that I never quite knew who he was.
Yeah, I want to laugh, but it's not funny. But it's hilarious, but it's not.
The boys thought it was hilarious. I gave them the pink underwear and they stuck it up on the dressing room wall for the duration of the production. And it gave them all a right laugh. It was just me that was terrified for my life.
I don't blame you.
Like the weirdest proposal, like that's the weirdest I've ever heard anything get propositioned. It's like, this guy clearly thought he had a shot to shoot here, and that there was some level of success that might have been he thought this was spitting game, and that this game may return rewards. It's just, now that's a character whose mind I want to get into, but also never ever get behind that. Like that's just, there's something real there, and I don't know if I ever would want to touch that.
But you asked. I mean, there's lots of other stories I could tell you along that line. But anyway, that's one of them.
When was the last time you jumped in a puddle for fun?
Yesterday.
Yes.
With my doggy.
Yes.
That's your dog.
Staffy, she's half Staffy, half boxer, so she's quite bouncy, and it's been miserable weather, as I say, and I was reluctant to take her out because it's been raining and everything. But anyway, we were just like, my partner got home from work and we were like, no, we've got to go out. She's going stir crazy. And the fields were all muddy and everything else, but she was having a lovely time running around. So I tend to run and then she runs after me and I'm like, this gives her exercise. I'll go and jump over here and she'll jump over here. So it was really nice, actually, getting all wet with my doggy yesterday.
Oh, wonderful.
Does your dog love the mud?
Yes, too much. Then we have to shower in the kitchen till she's kind of, because otherwise she'll walk. Well, in fact, there's muddy footprints all up the stairs at the moment. So
there's a Dalmatian in my neighborhood that loves the mud, and you can always tell on rainy days when that dog has just been to the park. Just brisket on down, completely brown.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. That's it. We reached the end of Jonathan. I know you've got to go, so.
Oh, it's been so nice to meet you guys. Are you doing a show tonight?
I had a show last night. Tonight, I have a rehearsal that actually got pushed back so I could do this. I am the understudy for the main stage music director at Second City, so I have to go in and put in the understudies for that show so they can go in this. It just got sprung on me earlier, and they're like, you have to be here at 1. I'm like, no, I'm interviewing Nicole Faraday. I will be there at 5.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel very honoured, and it's lovely to meet you. And I'll try and find a link so I can send it to you both to watch.
Please, I would love to. I would really love to. It seems like a fascinating piece. I was so the thing I love about the show is I get to explore like a whole different I'm not as much of an Anglophile, so I don't watch as much British TV or Australian TV, and it's just wonderful to get to meet such talented and wonderful people. So thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, Aaron, I will see you soon.
So next week with Glenn Slater.
We'll see you next week.
Have fun. No, thank you so much. I hope you weren't offended by my review.
No, don't be silly. No, but it's good because I hope that I kind of argued quite well on behalf of the music. So
good. And the thing is, I've wanted to see it for ages since I heard it was filmed, because I knew the show and I knew it was a musical and I heard it was filmed and I'm like, I want to see it, but I never got a chance to. So I always had that expectation of this is going to be something gritty. There's probably going to be lots of rock music or something. So that expectation wasn't just this week. I've been expecting what I was going to get from Bad Girls the Musical for a long time. And so I think that's also that played against me as well. It's a tightrope. It really is, because we don't want to offend people. We know you've given up your time to come on this show and listen to the music beforehand and do your homework and all that jazz. But we also, I'm not going to bullshit you, and I'm not going to bullshit anyone, because that's rude. It's disrespectful. And not only that, you will see through it. You will see through it if I'm sitting there going, oh, it's 5 stars. I loved it. I left the theater with a smile on my face. Wasn't it all too many screens? You're going to be like, dude, just tell me what you really thought.
No, definitely. But I think in a way, technology is ruining theatre. I think people are relying too much on these screens. And I didn't see the new Sunset Boulevard with Nicole Scherzinger, but I had some really good friends that watched it that said they hated it because they hated they were like, it's an opulent, it's an amazing, I love the score of Sunset, I have to say, and I love the opulence of the whole all 1920s, 30s actress. And to have a completely black box stage where you've just got screens and everything and everyone's just wearing black, it's like, that's not what you expect from Sunset Boulevard. And I know that's why they're trying to be all cool and clever, but I think I prefer the Glenn Close, the proper old school with the big stairs and everything, the proper Norma Desmond. That's what is more my thing.
But yes. No. Anyways, before we let you go, we should finish off the episode because we're sitting in gas bagging.
Yes.
Where can people find you on the social medias?
On Twitter, I'm at Nikki Farr. On Instagram, Nicole Faraday. On Facebook, Nicole Faraday. And I'm not down with the kids enough to do TikTok yet, I'm afraid. Oh, and if people want to see updates of what I'm doing when, I've got a website, which is www.nicolefaraday.co.uk. And I tend to put what I'm doing where, when on there. So I keep it updated in the latest news section.
Yep, awesome. This just blows my mind. But anyways, that's it. You made it out of the torture chamber in one piece. And thank you so much for joining us. It truly has been a thrill. It really has.
Thank you for having
celebrating
me.
Your career. And that's it. We're done. Beautiful.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. I hope that was all right.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. And thank you for the rearrangement of the times and stuff. I'm sorry about that. It's just I suddenly got tickets last minute for a production and I was like, But anyway, you know what it's like. Theatre's so expensive that if you get free tickets for something, you just really want to go.
Yes. Tell me about it. As I say, I've seen theatre 4 times this year, but 5 in the past 12 months because it's so expensive here. It's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's bad in the UK, but I've seen like in America as well on Broadway. Isn't it just the most ridiculous? I mean, it's a shame because it makes it non-accessible for so many people.
It does. And it's
because also you always find like the cheaper seats are always just gone like that, and then it means that you're having to go, oh god, I've got to go to the red band or the blue band, and it's like 100 and something. You're like, oh,
yep.
Like,
tell me about it.
I don't earn enough money to do this.
No, and then like you pay all that money, and the chances are you're going to get somebody who's taller than you in front of you because you're in the. What we call them the stalls here. Beauty and the Beast, the woman in front of us, her hair was as wide as her shoulders.
No.
I don't know why her hair needed to be like this. She wasn't a drag queen.
Oh, no.
And I'm sitting like behind, I had to like lean to see because she blocked off most of this, like one side of the stage. So I had to sort of keep leaning around. My back was sore for 5 days. In fact, like Spencer was going to understudy for me in this recording because my back was too sore. I couldn't do anything for 3 or 4 days. And I'm trying to get this episode prepared and trying to write your introduction and all that jazz. And I'm like, Spencer, you're going to have to be sitting there waiting because if I turn and I put my back out, I'm screwed. And it's all because that stupid bloody woman in her
ridiculous hair.
Her big hair. And I think if I wore a mohawk, like a big one, I would get told off. I'd get kicked out.
Yeah, it's true. The thing that annoys me most is that these days, I'm sure you've seen in the press, I don't know if you have it in Australia, but so many people now, the super fans, they just sing along at the top of their voices. And you just think, I did not pay to listen to you murdering that. I want to listen to what's going on the stage. And I think, why do people bother coming to watch people perform if they're just going to sing along? Because they're not listening to them at all. All they're hearing is their own voice.
I know.
It's so arrogant for people to do that. It's awful. It drives me insane. Yeah. I watched Anne Juliet and I nearly walked out because Anne Juliet is one of those ones that has super fans that go all the time and they're going all the time. Every time someone comes on stage, and you can't hear what I'm like. I want to hear the story. I want to hear the script that they're saying. I want to hear their singing. Yeah. They're paid. They're talented, not you.
I know. I'm gonna have to put this in the episode because this is stuff that we rant about this all the time. Like standing ovations these days are dished out like they're bread and butter. You know, they're not earned.
I know. And it's lovely as a performer. It's nice to have a standing ovation, but not to the point where it's ruining the flow of the story. Yeah. It's lovely at the end to feel like people have really appreciated what you've done. That's the time for standing ovations. That's the time for the cheers and the whoops and for you to go, wow, I'm so glad I've touched those people and that they've really enjoyed my performance. Yeah. All the way through, it's just annoying. It's so annoying for the performers because you're like, I know that there's people in the audience that can't hear what I'm trying to say and it's ruining the experience for them, as well as annoying me going, I want to get my next line out. Like, I don't want to be standing there like, woo, woo, woo. It's like, shut up now.
Yeah. Can I understand a defying gravity moment or and I'm telling you I'm not going moment. But if you listen to the I'm telling you I'm not going moment, the song barely stops. There's barely room for people to applaud after she sings that because it goes into the next track right away. Yeah. And that was done deliberately so that people wouldn't give her a standing ovation after that number. Right. And yet people can't help themselves. But I've noticed like the standing ovation felt forced. It felt like, oh, this is the moment we're meant to stand up and clap now. And it was that real slow rise to the feet. Right. That's not a standing ovation, if you ask me. A standing ovation is, you just knocked my socks up and I cannot wait to get to my feet and start jumping and screaming and shouting. And we've lost that now because everything gets a standing ovation and it doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, and it numbs. It's kind of like a numbing thing, isn't it? Right? Because it means that then you miss out on the highs and the lows and the roller coaster of the emotion and stuff. If all the way through people are going woo woo or like yay, if their favorite performers just come on stage, it just completely takes away from the story. And I think it makes the real standing ovation moments disingenuine.
It does,
which is a shame.
It does. Like Lizzie got a standing ovation a couple of months ago doing Sister Act. And it was the first time she got it. It was actually after her song. And it meant so much to her because she didn't have 100 before it that were just dished out willy-nilly. Yeah. It's like I say, I can't bullshit. I can't really, say to someone that I loved something if I didn't. And it's the same thing with standing ovation. If I didn't feel it, I feel so dirty at opening night, standing up and applauding. But you see it, it's regimental. It's like robots stand up to their feet and clap. It's like there's no excitement there at all.
Yeah.
Rent, I think there was excitement, but because we were front row, we got the energy from the stage and the energy from the audience. So it sort of smacked us from both sides. So I didn't see everyone stand up, but I felt it. Like some people will say, "Oh, get over it. It's nothing big," but it's a thing.
It really is, especially if it interrupts the enjoyment of the show for both the performers and the audience.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's very disrespectful. I think it becomes more about those audience members than it does about what they've paid all that money to go and watch.
Yes, it's like people with their big fucking hair. It's not about you, honey. You can look nice with your hair down. Like Moulin Rouge, there was someone in the front row, not the tables and chairs. Like it says the tables and chairs, right? But she was in the actual front row, 6 foot tall. I think it might have been a drag queen. But the hair was another foot taller. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I would be throwing popcorn in your hair through that whole fucking show, because you deserve it. You're asking for it.
It's so selfish.
It is. And I get it. Dressing up on opening night, I'm loving every minute of it. I get to dress up and hit the red carpet. So I get that. I get it. You want to look as great as possible, but you have to consider who is behind you at the theater, because this hair, no.
Just no.
Not hair that is the same shape as the fucking stage. That's all. Please don't. Like, it shouldn't be much to ask, but apparently it is, because people, it's selfishness. It is. It's arrogance. But then I can't go to the PR company and complain to them, can I? Because they know where everyone's sitting.
Yeah.
So they're going to know who I'm bitching and moaning about. So I can't,
That's true.
Literally can't say anything to anyone about it except on this show, because I have the microphone and this is my goddamn show. So sorry, I'm keeping you way too long. So.
But it's lovely to meet you.
Yes. Me too. Awesome. So that's it from us. You can check below for all the links and details. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we shall see you next time. Uru!
Like quicksand!